I grew up in some fairly unique systems, so my first real experience with shooters were mainly Doom mods and Open Arena, which looks like Quake because it is. Which means I generally end up fairly biased towards games like Shrine. Not to say I don't have my criticisms, but hey, this game did kind of restart my love for classic shooters a couple of years ago. Shrine does well to be a lot more accessible than a lot of older shooters, using essentially the same elements. I think a lot of people get an icky feeling just moving in some older games.
I'm literally in a cage!
I mean, like, Half-Life and Team Fortress 2 feel this criticism as well, despite having complex and great feeling movement. But not everyone wants that aged sauce. Despite that, Shrine really makes good use of Doom's movement to make some pretty fun platforming sections that are challenging, but surprisingly forgiving. I'm amazed with how many insta-kill pits there are that I didn't walk backwards into, which I think lends itself a lot to the level design being so simple but precise. Everywhere you go is the intended route somehow without feeling like you're being railroaded. And while it loses some depth to that lack of complexity, I think it's refreshing being that clear without having to paint door handles and ledges vibrant colours. Back in Quake's time, such clarity had not yet been discovered. I walked around one of those levels, having killed everything for about 20 minutes before finding the end of the level. Now, I may be stupid, It is kind of funny how much this game takes from its engine. Just looking around, that guy is a green archvile, and half of your weapons are reskins. But that's not necessarily bad. Like, Doom never speaks to you like Dracula when you find a secret, so I'd say it has its own character. The Super Shotgun is unsurprisingly the best weapon, with no reason not to use it, which is fine because the game kind of is held together with its simplicity. It still finds ways to make different levels feel different. Every map is distinct. Here you go fight 20 gazillion horrible slimy guys, or, you know, just literal hell from the Bible. While the layouts offer differences, one consistency is the skill checks at the ends of levels. They're good not just for a first run to test the player, but also returning players. This guy kicked my ass 2 years ago, but now playing again I'm just finding new methods of folding him. In my origami book rated ages 5 to 8, the challenge consistently ramps up with bosses being added to the regular pool of enemies, until you kind of forget you're just fighting guys that can just one-shot you, but in like a fair way, I think. Shrine 2 expands on this by continuing to kill you instantly, but forget literally everything else. Extended paths are complicated and looping, guns do weird shit like ice platforms and kidney beans. There isn't even a mandatory level called something to do with the birth canal, even if it really feels like there is. Trust me, this is wild from the creator that brought us Hell Womb. All this, and they also added Siren Head? Why are you here? Map design kind of feels like Half-Life but more violent, or, you know, that one level in Mario 64 that looks like it was made in Roblox. Platforming aspects are no longer breaks from combat, but fit intrinsically to the core gameplay loop. While this is fun and interesting, I'd still rate Shrine 1 for being to the point with you, when Shrine 2 wants to do nothing but lie. But I won't ever forgive the dev for removing "a secret is revealed." The weapon system got an entire overhaul, and ammo actually feels scarce with differentiated pickups, which certainly feels more interesting, although this does make the Super Shotgun feel a little underwhelming, only because it's not completely overpowered anymore. I think the ice platforms idea is really cool in most of the levels to change the gameplay and challenge the player a bit, and then they make you cross an ocean, which kills you while being shot at. Now, I do have my criticisms because I got soft-locked on this boss, which I actually referenced in my first video. Speaking of which, I have other videos, you can go watch them, you could subscribe if you want. This boss has so much health that I started counting shots to see if it had become impossible. You could go back to an earlier save to get more ammo going into a fight, but that isn't really fun. This game doesn't really feel polished like the first entry did, but I'd still recommend Shrine 2 as much as Shrine 1. It feels like it's doing too much for its bones to handle, which, when it works, is really cool, and when it doesn't, you get a final boss that drops your frames to 1 per business day. I'm fairly sure my rendering rig meets the requirements for GZ Doom, which is 20 years old. I really tried to beat it anyway, but I preferred my experience with cheats sprinkled in. This is the 1% of gameplay though. Like the previous 2 phases of that boss fight are genuinely great. It mimics your attacks, making better weapons higher risk for the reward, like when he kicks the shit out of you for trying melee. The campaign has about 2 hours more story to dilute any of the problems, given the main loop of the game is actually really good. Also, as long as you own a computer with components and no money, you could get yourself the entire Shrine collection today. Yeah, that's pretty much it.